there any sense of all these experiences you were doing, going into the future, etc., and all of that, that there was some real higher force, there was a higher force that existed, sort of was more in control than people were at the station. You know, people have their little kingdoms and think that they rule the world in a sense, but as you were going through the experience, you sensed higher forces, much higher forces that really have something to do to say about destiny and how things go on this planet. Very mystical experience is what I'm having fun.
Well, since Duncan is referring to me, and I'll try to answer. I would say that during that period, myself, looking back on it, there was no awareness on my part, and I don't think there was any on Duncan's part, of such a higher agency, if you will, directing our efforts at that point. I would say very definitely there was before that point. Sometime in the past we were aware of it, but perhaps not in our respective earlier lifetimes, this lifetime, but further back. And since then, very definitely, that there's some kind of, if you will put an expression, a divine plan involved in this whole thing, which is very, very difficult to explain, very difficult to extrapolate on. But what a reason for all of this happening? I know that without any question. What that reason is still not clear. And I think Duncan would agree that, yes, he knows that there was some kind of a reason for it. Preston would probably agree with it. And he's looking at it from the mathematical nuts and bolts end of it to try and come up with a reason. And it's not easy. Yes, there was a reason why it happened. If you go back into, as I will shortly, go back into the Philadelphia experiment end of it, which was the beginning of the whole business, one can see from the way that thing was maneuvered that there was a higher hand of some kind involved in setting the whole thing up. Of course, it would never have happened the way it did, unless two obscure dates, 40 years apart, coincided with two experiments.
If I could just add something directly to your question, quickly. Having to do with seeing and knowing possibly some other intelligentsia. There's a function of the time tunnel where a person, or in my experience, per se, it's only connected to relation, when a person moves through a number of procedures, there's a point in maybe 2/3 down the tunnel as it proceeds where there's a very big thump. The energy leaves the body. There's a tendency to see on a broad scale. I can only answer that question theoretically. Looking back on it, I'm sure there is and there was some intelligence there, certainly a higher form than we know. As to the recognition of it, I would have trouble in that sense, but there is what I call full out, where the energy leaves the body, and there's a tendency to see on a very broad scale. That's partially what they were trying to do at Montauk, is to stabilize and to freeze what I call a full out, the seeing process.
So they want you to see it, that's what you think?
No, they were trying to manifest that.
Oh, they were.
For whatever that purpose is.
In your travels, did you ever go back in time of your own lifetime? Did they ever ask you to do that?
No.
So when you think you really to do that, well, you could, you would be theoretical.
Yeah, you would be in your instance.
No, but I don't know if they ever asked you to.
I have no information directly, but theoretically it's very possible to influence a person's function, however that's so possible.
What was the role of the aliens at all? I mean, other than the chair, which
Okay, that would be the earlier part of this that we haven't got into yet. Let's look at another little sideline here. What was done, one of the cute little trips that they made was they made a trip from 83 back to 63 and saw Henry new body. That's all I knew of it, that they saw Henry new body. I don't know why, but Al could of course tell us why. I think this would be a good time to let's go and discuss the Philadelphia experiment.
One on iceberg is like a general overview of what they did technologically.
Can we take 5 or 10 directly?
Sure.
Is that adequate?
Yeah, let's
take a break. Yeah, take a break. Right, please.
Dodge Caravan before the front got broken. Backs up to the main door in the back of the big building. This is the main radar building. This really, you should go to this picture later. That's central what it is.
All I know is what I got here. I don't know what the deal is.
All right, let's go to the next picture. Is that a focus? This is leaving the site. Of course, there's my car again. And the red building is one of the old leftover radar buildings that they didn't use. The round things, we don't know what the hell the round things were.
And Mary?
The street coming out.
Okay.
That's the back end of the main antenna. This thing is an antenna which is roughly 300 foot by 200 foot. And that tower that goes this way, the main horn is mounted on. That's the omnidirectional antenna. And the little thing on top is shaped like that. The IFF antenna. They didn't use the IFF.
Is this for the project?
Yeah. This is the transmitter. This is the transmitter. You're looking at the transmitter. Like anyone that has any sensitivity. This is a full shot of the building. Anybody that has any sensitivity can probably feel the energy coming off this picture.
This is a fallen tower, or
We
what?
have a fucking extra tower.
We have a pointer for him, so he does like the pointer, okay, a stick or something.
Yes, we have a...
Oh, okay.
Here is from the pointer comes. This is going to be right. Using the marker. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors in this structure. Each one is about 100 foot square.
The transmitter?
This is the transmitter building. The transmitter was on this floor and this floor, and this was the antenna controller. All these ducts here are cooling for the transmitter.
That's just sitting there open?
Yep.
Looking for lawsuits.
Yep.
Go ahead.
This is another picture, another site, another picture of the building with the antenna. Again, you can see these doors you can look out. This is all open. We know it was open as of September.
You can walk inside the building.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is a shop.
Ultimate reality.
This is just essentially background. Let's keep going. This was never one of those round structures. What they did with these in the project, if anything, we don't know. They didn't look maintained. You can see it's all rusted over here, here, you know. But you can see that other building was maintained. This was like about 85. These pictures were taken. Okay. This is a shot from the roof looking up at the antenna. This is a catwalk. People walk here. You get an idea of the massive size of this thing.
The antenna?
This is the antenna. Transmitting antenna. This is shot out over, that's the ocean, from the roof of the building.
Don't change it here.
This is the group. This person should be familiar. That person should be familiar. This is my friend Jeff that comes up from Maryland. That's the guy that plays Rambo running around the woods.
Those buildings in the back?
That's two of those round buildings. You can see they haven't been maintained. Look at the doors here.
You go inside of them?
Yeah.
You couldn't tell what it was all about?
There isn't anything in them. Nothing in them. Those are cleaned out.
And those buildings you can still walk in now?
Because I haven't boarded up. Sure. I don't know. This is a picture of what they call omnidirectional antenna. This is what the antenna they use. In fact, if you look, you see all the wires feeding in, all the coax cables feeding in. This they use to send out a signal, but we believe they use this more for picking up signals. This will pick up a return from the person that they were targeting. This has one huge cable that goes up to it and a bunch of little cables for receivers. And they control the different dipoles on this. Okay, let's go. This is a general shot of the antenna. That's the gain horn. See, they were first focusing this so the signal will go in, bounce off, come out. But they finally realized that they didn't want the Hertzian component to reflect it, so they positioned it so the gain horn pointed right at the subject. That's the way they eventually developed this thing so it worked right.
Outside.
Outside, yes.
It was outside.
The subject was in another building that was downrange.
The focal point was at that building.
Yes. This is a distant view of the thing. You get an idea how massive it is.
What are these dimensions approximately?
300 feet by 200, 150 feet. 100 feet this way.
125 tons for the control mechanism.
That's the 125 tons. This weighs 125 tons, this is about 200 tons.
Did you help design this transmission antenna?
No, that was part of the phase. The white back shot. But this is interesting. This is essentially the main building. This is a transmitter building. This is the control center where all the computers were. And this was offices.
Where was the subject?
Down the hill that way.
Okay, another building.
Yeah.
And are those buildings are still there?
This one is open. I'm told this one is open and this one is open. And the powerhouse is open. This is a distance shot. You're 2 miles away here from the building. On Montauk Highway. Same thing. You're 2 miles away here. I don't know what that is. Oh yeah, you're further away. This is now this is in the town still. This is like about 5 miles away here. That's the building.
What about
This building here is where they had the subject. This is how many people know what the planetary grid is?
Yeah,
This is one of the cross points of the grid. Wow. You stand here, you'll feel the grid.
that's still there.
Yep.
That's by the land.
So if we have the right picture, you'll see they arranged the buildings around the cross point like the Indians arranged mounds of rock around the cross point. These buildings stood in the cross point. But they focused it, if I remember, on that building, was where they had the subject. You know, these buildings were Duncan verified it, that's where he was. Duncan has a tendency to flip when he sees stuff like this. Okay, let's go to the next one. That's me. Standing next to the radar site 5 miles away. Can you see my welding glasses?
Yeah.
Another shot. You can go on. That's Australia.
Do these power lines go straight to that location?
You go straight to that
All of
location.
that is securing those
Wow. Right here, so you can see the high tension line.
Are they still out of access?
Those are what supply the point. Okay.
I mean, are they active?
Here's a picture of the pedestal. These are motors. 4 of them. The motors are going today.
This is on the roof.
This is on the roof.
Motors are gone?
Yeah, someone took the motors. How? I don't know.
How they got them down,
Oh, that's
But they pushed them off a lot of crash. There's these big crevices in the ground. We haven't heard of those crevices. Train freaks may have taken these. These are the same motors that run the big locomotives. This is a picture of the gain horn. This is the thing. This is about the size of my Volkswagen Rabbit at the time. This is what actually cut the signal. I went out like this. More weight guy went down the catwalk and went into the building.
We're looking at sideways.
Yeah. Oh, there's the UFO landing pad.
What is that?
That's the only one of these round little buildings that's maintained.
Oh, right, where's the big building?
Okay, that's an old radar building that wasn't maintained. This is the main operations center. This is where they had all the computers. And the chair was right below this building. We figure. And then that's the office building there. That's where Jack Pruitt and what's his place?
Which building was the subject in? Can you see it there?
Huh?
Can you see the building the subject was in from here?
No.
Okay.
Another same area essentially. You know, these are not maintained. This one's nicely maintained. Some people believe thoroughly that there were any UFOs here. This is a shot of the lighthouse in the roof.
So the White House isn't far away.
No.
Wow.
Where are two little
Maintenance buildings or something.
maintenance buildings?
I don't think they can use That's the red radar site. There was a big bubble on top of that at one time, but there for years. Same shot. Just different lens.
It's basically constructed in World War II, something like that?
You know, after the 60s. Looks like you just had that shot.
No, this is the view of.
Yeah.
He took a lot of shots.
Yes, James took tons of shots.
What is this?
That is what's left of the old Fort Hero. There was gun emplacements in there. There's a emergency generator in that building now, or there was. Closest I could figure from the wiring.
Where were the 4 megawatt generators?
You'll see it. No, you'll see it. Go on. That's another shot of the red building.
Why a pink building?
Which was the building where there were marks you say on the wall?
No, all of them. I don't know if we got good enough detail to see them. I don't know why he took a shot at that, but
He liked it.
he likes it.
Show me what you got here.
Same thing.
Yeah. Can we go in the distance?
That's the Bell Tower. He took a shot of that too. Right, Felipe. He took a shot of that one. The Bell building, of course, is at the base of it. Something new and different. I never understood why. Oh yeah, this is a maintenance shed. This is the diesel tank that ran the generators. Okay, there's the building that the subject was in, from the roof. There's the cross point, and there's the tuning buildings around the cross point. The government built this, and the state, this is a state park today, the state's been told they cannot tear these buildings down.
Oh, really?
Yep,
Thinking of what?
they cannot tear these buildings down.
Are they being maintained? Can you still get in them? What?
I don't know.
You didn't try to...
Can you go inside those?
I've been in the building, so I don't
You
know
get
if they're
any
open.
sense when you're in it psychically?
Oh, yeah. Even I can pick it up, and I have the sensitivity of
You
a
can
rock.
just drive there and walk into those buildings.
Well, you drive in the parking lot of Montauk Point State Park and then walk back.
Now, is that
About
gate
2 miles.
there? Is that the gate
2 mile
separating the
walk.
state park from the...
This is just pipes going over the building,
Okay, but
over the walkway.
you can't drive there.
No, you can't drive up here. They got gates that are closed.
Okay, okay.
But you can walk in and around and you can get there.
I saw cars there when you were there.
So we had their permission to be in there to take pictures and stuff like that. This is just another shot of over there. You can see how far away they were focusing, and they were focusing right on this building.
Yeah.
It was right in line of sight.
But you can't drive into the main basement.
No, not now.
No?
No.
You just gotta walk through.
You gotta walk in.
Yeah, especially on a cul-de-sac. You have permission, when did you go with the cars?
This was May
When it was warm?
86.
May of '86.
Yeah.
Do you have a letter?
Yeah, they had a letter.
Is that letter no good now?
No, it's not any good now.
What is that tank?
This is the diesel fuel tank that ran the generator station.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know why he took a picture of that. Except you can see again the building where the subject was of the early experiment. Same thing. There's the building again.
Now, pictures here.
Let's keep going. There's the powerhouse. This thing is 4 huge diesel generators, and you can see the cooling towers for each. They used 2, they had one ready to go, and one was being repaired.
How big were those things? Would you say?
Megawatt.
I mean, how physically, how big? How long? High?
Size of a locomotive. You know, locomotive engines, essentially.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, if the power went out coming in on those trunk lines, though, that wouldn't be enough power to power this.
Well, they originally used this to run the station, but what happened, they discovered when they turned on, it created such time disturbances, it gave the generators the heebie-jeebies and they went down. So they put the generators down permanently and ran off the loco.
Right.
But the generators had the heebie-jeebies. This is another shot of the power station.
Oh, you were really in there.
Yep. Another shot over, I think this is the bay between the forks. Same thing.
Where the antenna is?
That's one part of the antenna.
I don't know if this is, I guess it's right.
That's a shot of that other gantry from the roof. You saw that thing next to my car. And that hasn't been maintained either.
Do I have it right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's stuff strewn all over the space.
Now, are you saying that this 30-foot creature was doing stuff to things like this, or no?
Yeah, we think that was part of it.
Ripped it off, you mean?
But if I see anything that's obvious, I'll let you know.
No, there's not a whole lot more. There's a lot of duplicates that I didn't use.
No, that's nothing. You've seen that.
Now we go inside.
Yeah, okay. That's a choke. That's a charging reactor.
Can you focus that a little better?
Could you speak a little louder, please?
This is what they call a charging choke. This is a filter choke, I'm sorry. The rectifiers are up in there. They're big multi-disc rectifiers up in there. You know, what I call hockey pucks. Huh?
What type of material are they using to rectify something like
Silicon.
they're solid state? So
I call them hockey pucks.
silicon or selenium?
Silicon. I call them hockey pucks. This is one of the power tubes. This is called an amplitron. That's the tube right there. And those are the magnets for it. And the pulse transformer is in this oil-filled tank. And this crane lifts this thing out.
How big is that diameter on the anode?
3 foot.
Is part of the equipment that was, that has to be destroyed, or is it just?
No, they left this behind. Let's go on. This is a tube fully assembled with all the magnets on it. This thing is about 6 foot tall from here to here.
Preston, that would never be used for radar, is that correct?
They originally used it for radar. This was long distance radar.
Uh-huh.
But then they rebuilt them. Another shot of the amplitron. I never noticed the red floor before. Is Al here?
Yeah, I'm here.
You ever noticed the red floor?
No.
Something funny going on.
When we were in there, part of it was red, and I don't recall what parts.
This is a close-up of the amplitron.
When you look at the walls in the back of that, you can see the marks.
It's depends on all this equipment. It's very unusual.
This is some of the acetylene torch marks where they cut the waveguides to stop it. This is the power transformer. This thing probably is about 12 tons. This is the type of thing I tell Duncan move. He grunts, he groans a little, and he moves it.
Mungo-like beams.
Yeah. This is a Thyratron. This is the main pulse modulator. They use 4 of these things. This is about 2.5 foot tall, this tube. It's about 6 inches in diameter.
Wow.
And they have 4 of these in parallel to fire off the pulse forming network.
That wasn't just sitting there, was it?
Yeah.
I hope you got it.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Well, this is one of the ones that's broken. I got complete ones, good ones.
These were made in the 50s?
These particular ones were made in the 80s,
Wow.
but they were designed in the 50s. That's 500 Gauss magnet. That's the play on one of the magnets you can go on. That doesn't mean a hell of a lot.
Except for the stamp stereo.
Yeah, let's go outside.
That's I don't know what that is.
Anyway, that's it.
Wonder where the class building is.
What?
Wonder where the class building is.
It might have been some of the others. I got some more here if you want to run through them.
It's up to you guys.
They're all
If you
duplicates.
want to run through quick, go ahead.
I didn't see it, Preston, the duplicate.
They're all duplicates.
There was also better pictures showing the torch mark.
Could be. I'll do it. You want? Okay.
It's up to you guys.
No, let's do it. Whatever.
If you want to do it, you go through
Or you.
that same thing. Go on.
Zip too fast.
I'm good.
Another shot of the portal, of the vortex,
Another portal.
of the cross point. I'm sorry. Same thing.
You seem to stop me from running a power line
Okay.
on top of it.
Can you back up one?
Yeah.
Back up to what you had there, say, before.
I'm here, right?
Between that one is a different time period of day. The energetics of that picture as opposed to the next one is very different.
Maybe another sensor can pick that up.
As in higher or lower, better, worse, or just different?
Different. These are at random now.
Whoops.
Another picture of the magic line.
Okay.
I mean,
There's gonna be a lot of those.
Yeah, I know. Jan took loads of those.
Do what you want. These are
Same thing.
different.
Same thing. Go on. Go on.
Going as fast as you can.
Preston, he's got it loaded.
I know. That's another shot of the power welding.
shots that you see.
Those insulators.
No.
See?
Those things provided 20 kV. Another shot. That's the same thing. Go on.
There's the torch marks, which are not as clear.
Yeah. Same thing. Go on. You say there's lots of those.
Okay. Gonna jump outside.
Okay, this is a closer shot of the antenna, but not close enough. You can see all the cables going in this box on the bottom. They were doing phased array work with this thing. You see cables running up it. These are dry. This is a series of dipoles. We've got a close-up of this somewhere in there.
This is Lower the Horizon radar.
Yes, it is. Stack doesn't matter. That's all fuzzed out. I guess you also picked up the bad ones.
Well, I told you I took them out, but you wanted to see those.
Same thing. Keep going. Oh, we can run them quick.
Just a second.
Yep. That's a dud.
Yeah, black.
This is better than walking through the place.
It's better.
That's the burning?
Yeah, that's the burning.
Outside again, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. That's the gain horn.
And these, there's no value to them now, to use somewhere else.
Well, I'm sure they're valuable.
Sure they are.
transport.
No, it's in the building. Put somebody back in business there.
That's the cop's car.
Did you come out to see what you were doing?
Yeah. Cop came in and looked in every couple of hours.
Really?
It's a shot of the whole town, like, that's 4-0 right there.
We had a permit to get in there,
Yeah.
a day permit.
Another shot of the antenna. Let's keep
How
going.
difficult is it to get a permit?
Very.
How'd you
The
manage?
fellow got us through the alleged connection to the senator. Continue. That's another amplitron.
Two more here.
Another one continues. You can tell when they left, they took off in a hurry. You can see there's junk strewn everywhere. The military doesn't leave it like this.
How many of those tubes were there?
2.
What did they, yeah, I guess that's
You can continue. That's the same thing.
That's the welding torch up there?
There's two big ones. Big ones. Notice they're always where this would turn and go up.
What were they cutting at? Was there something coming out of the wall?
Yes. The weight guide went up like this. This thing was quite disassembled.
I wouldn't cut that thing running. I wouldn't want an open waveguide.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't. Another shot of the tube. I can assure you I didn't cut it apart. Another shot of the tube, big
They
deal.
probably ordered some privates to do it who didn't know what
What
was
if
going
things
on.
like
No, Pruitt himself did.
They did? Pruitt himself did that?
Pruitt himself cut it apart.
He must have been desperate. He wasn't powering through.
What would a suit like this cost?
This is a C-23J, which today is about $4,500. Another shot of the Amplitron.
The Ampertron's are a little more expensive,
Yes. The Amplitron is worth about $250,000.
Each one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another shot of the Amplitron. We can go on.
Much more. Amplitron here?
Even has built-in vacuum pump, which you can see here.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
Okay.
Now we're done.
Get into that, pull the chair back in here somewhere.
Now we go on to the Philadelphia experiment. Otherwise known as nonsense at sea.
Earlier project which started this whole business off, so far as I can determine, that was the infamous Philadelphia experiment, so-called because in its final phases was conducted in the harbor outside the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It originally began back, I'll condense this quite a bit, originally began back in the 30s in Chicago with three people, Dr. John Hutchinson Sr., who was the dean of the University of Chicago, Nikola Tesla, and a third man by the name of Dr. Kurtenauer, who was an Austrian physicist who was apparently on staff. Now we're going to
Get into that, pull the chair back in here somewhere.
Now we go on to the Philadelphia experiment. Otherwise known as nonsense at sea.
earlier project which started this whole business off, so far as I can determine, that was the infamous Philadelphia experiment, so-called because in its final phases was conducted in the harbor outside the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It originally began back, I'll condense this quite a bit, originally began back in the 30s in Chicago with three people, Dr. John Hutchinson Sr., who was the dean of the University of Chicago, Nikola Tesla, and a third man by the name of Dr. Kurtenauer, who was an Austrian physicist who was apparently on staff at the University of Chicago. They decided about that time to try and do something about all of the speculation rampant at that time and for years prior about things like invisibility and how could you possibly make an object invisible and so on. They got together and researched the thing and did some work at the University of Chicago around 31, 32. In 33, the Institute of Advanced Studies at Princeton, New Jersey was formed, and the project was transferred there probably about 34. One of the first people on staff at the University Institute of Advanced Studies was Dr. John Eric von Neumann, who was from Hungary, Budapest. He had his degree about 1925 in chemistry and 26 in physics, PhD in math. Taught in Europe for about 4 years and transferred to the United States. He taught at the graduate school at Princeton for 3 years and was invited to join the Institute. Other people at the Institute, of course, included Albert Einstein, who left Germany in 1930, went to the California Institute of Technology for 3 years, taught there, then went to the Institute upon their invitation and acceptance. A lot of other people showed up there as time went on. So the project expanded about 1936. In the meantime, of course, Tesla was named as director of the project because he was a very good friend of a certain gentleman in the White House known as Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who he originally met in 1917 when Roosevelt was the Secretary of the Navy, and Tesla was asked at that time to do some work for the government, for the war effort, which he did. And they maintained their friendship. When he became president, Roosevelt, insofar as I can determine, called him down to Washington and asked him, well, how would you like to work for the government again? And since he was not terribly flush with money at that time, namely Tesla wasn't, he accepted, became involved with this project insofar as being the director was concerned. He had already been involved. And he became and retained his position as director of the so-called Invisibility Project until he resigned or left, however it occurred in 1942. 1936, with their studies in the labs there, they decided to have some kind of an early test. They had partial results, which means a partial invisibility. The Navy was encouraged, everybody was encouraged to continue. And of course the Navy had been funding it almost from the beginning in terms of doing things like giving them little research money and grants and that sort of thing. It progressed onward until 1940, and I'll get a little bit out of sequence here, but in 1940, after further research and with Tesla's approach, they decided they were ready for a full test. And they had a small Navy ship, probably a tender, and two adjacent vehicles, Brooklyn Navy Yard, and the two adjacent vehicles provided the power and the basic drives for the coils and the equipment they had on board the tender, with cables from either side, and the idea being if they're in the area of the Brooklyn Navy Yard with the cables, if something went wrong, they could cut the cables, and if they got desperate, they could sink the ship. Well, nothing of the kind happened. Everything worked, and the project was declared completely successful. But the important point of that 1940 test was there was no one on board the test vehicle. It was strictly a dry run, no people, no personnel. It's important because of what happened later. Now, in the meantime, other people came on board. There was a Dr. Gustav Le Bon, a associate of Van Neumann's, who became a close associate. There was a Dr. Clarkson, came in about 1940. Additionally, also came a T. Townsend Brown, who had had a strange history I won't go into. But he was had joined the Naval Reserve about 1933, and about 1939 he was tapped on the shoulder for active service by the Navy, and they wanted him specifically because of his background in gravity, gravitics, high voltage and such, to work on the problem of the German magnetic mines. He was given the big status of the head of a department to develop countermeasures for the German magnetic mines and other mines, minesweeper operations for the Navy. That became important because this led into a parallel project, the degaussing project of the Navy, where they developed the so-called degaussing cables to explode the magnetic mines at a distance quite safe, quite far away from the ship. Normally they'd be triggered by the magnetic flux of the ship's general mass, which would concentrate flux lines at a certain point that would trip the mechanism, and of course, ideally the magnetic mine would be tripped under the hull and of course below the ship to Kingdom Come. It provided a strong, powerful magnetic field that would trip the mine's sensing mechanisms at a safe distance and would be harmless if they exploded. That project was actually separate from the Invisibility Project, but was also parallel in the sense that much of the same technology was involved. Now, I became involved with this thing. We'll have to go into a little bit of a personal history. We'll again try to condense it because we are, I think, running a little late, but whatever. Quite aside from my legal name, which is on my birth certificate of Bielik, I was born in 1916, the best that I've been able to determine from my own memories and what comes up. 4 August 1916. I was born Edward A. Cameron, and in 1917, I believe 15 May, this guy was born in his original body, Duncan Cameron, or whatever they called him at the time. And we were born into a family with considerable amounts of money, not really wealthy, but they were well off. And we didn't hurt for money, we didn't hurt for the means for an education. Came time we went to school, he wound up in the University of Edinburgh, or Edinburgh, Scotland, according to his readings. Took a PhD in physics in 1939. In the meantime, went to University of Princeton, bachelor's and master's degree, and so far as I can determine, again, from memories, Took a PhD in physics from Harvard in 1939, both of us in the summer. It was arranged by our inimitable father, who had a great deal of influence with the Navy and apparently political clout in various sections and parts of the government. We do not understand how he got these connections. We don't know anything about them. There are no documents to show this. He himself served in the Navy in World War I, apparently as an ordinary recruit. Did a 20-year stint, retired. At what status, we don't know. Again, the retirement papers are missing, the separation papers. We do not know whether he got involved in intelligence or not, but it would appear that he did because of the subsequent events. He didn't work, from everything we know, from that point on. He had money from the family, and he became an ardent admirer of sailboats and decided to build his own. He built one, raced it, took some trophies, would sell it and build another. In between, he was traveling back and forth to Europe, and as had been previously mentioned, he became involved in the smuggling of German scientists, Jewish scientists, out of Nazi Germany into the U.S. This ceased in 1939 when the Cold War turned to a hot war. He had connections. We don't know how they were obtained, where they went, but it was determined that the two of us would become part of this project. When we finished our education, we were invited to join and to enlist in the Navy. We were both given commissions, September 1939. And we then did about 3 months at Providence Farm, Rhode Island Academy, the naval officers. In those days, they did the so-called 90-day wonder business. But we were already fairly well prepared. We didn't go through Annapolis or anything like this. And then we were sent to the project. We were there in 39 up until, for a period in 39, then through 1940. At the time of the test in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, we were on board at the Princeton Institute of Advanced Studies, and we also had, at that time, officers in the Philadelphia Navy Yard, which again became rather important later. But we did a lot of shuttling back and forth as part of our job. And one of the reasons why we were chosen was that the Navy wanted two people to represent their interests and keep full tabs on what was going on in the tests and the development of the program, who were technically competent to report in detail what was going on and to report to the Navy in the appropriate reports which they required, exactly what was happening in our technical commentaries. And that's why the education. There's also another aspect of this involved that, aside from Tesla, who did not have a good formal education, he started out, but in 1979 his father died, and his first year in the university was terminated, and he had to go to work. Came to the U.S. in '84. He had enormous insight and an incredible intuitive insight, and solved his problems in that manner very competently. He had a perfect track record. But unlike he, Van Neumann had a PhD in math, and his mathematical background was in the turn of this century. And before he came to the United States, he met a number of other people. J. Robert Oppenheimer was in Germany at that time. He became important because at a later time Oppenheimer was involved with the atomic bomb project, but not with the invisibility program. Additionally, he met Dr. David, what was the mathematician's name? Hilbert, who was a genius of a mathematician. He developed all kinds of new math. He was essentially contemporary with Van Neumann, who was born in 1905. Hilbert was born about 1912. And he had a PhD in math, but he developed whole new systems of math, about 5 different varieties, the most important of which, and for which he was well known, was a so-called Hilbert space. And this was a new means of describing mathematically multiple realities, multiple space, which became very important to the project. Van Neumann met him about 1925, 27, in that period, and took a lot of Hilbert's work and ran with it. And Van Neumann, in turn, developed all kinds of new systems of mathematics of his own. He was also known as a real genius as a mathematician. He was considered probably the most outstanding mathematician of this century. You know, some people think he was better than Einstein. Of course, others don't agree. But he developed many systems of his own which became important. There was another man who was also very important as a mathematician, of which there was virtually no traceability at this time. He was an American by the name of Levinson, Dr. Levinson, born 1912, died, so far as I can determine, 1976. He has published 3 books on very involved mathematics. I finally was able to hold in my hands two of those three books. I found them very recently at the Institute of Advanced Studies Library in Princeton. Never been able to find them anywhere else, but no history of Levinson himself. And he developed what was even more important, the so-called Levinson time equations. With that as a background, they were able then to go on and develop the whole system of the visibility project as applied to a large part object. Now, in 1940, as I said, the test was successful. The Navy then decided they would go full bore, finance the thing with unlimited funds, and classify the project, of course. And we were part of it. Well, in 1941, the project was going on, and of course, Tesla had full bore enthusiasm from the Navy, and they had full confidence from the President and everybody else to go ahead. While we were at sea, because they decided the two of us needed some sea duty, so we spent a year, 1941, at sea, in the USS Pennsylvania, as I remember, which toured the Pacific. We came back to Pearl Harbor for some repairs and dry docking in October of 41. We took some leave. We went to San Francisco. The 5th of December, we were about to board the plane back to Pearl when we were stopped by a captain who was just getting on the plane. Said, "Gentlemen, your orders are canceled. Come with me." So we met Vice Admiral Hal Bowen Sr., who was the then director of the Office of Naval Engineering, which was abolished in 46, but he was in charge of all of the research work for the Navy. And he told us, "Gentlemen, you may as well know we will be at war with Japan within 48 to 72 hours. We expect to lift Pearl Harbor. You're not going back there. You're too valuable. So we're going to leave you in San Francisco until your tour is over, which is the home base for the Pennsylvania. You'll do office work. You can enjoy some leave times. You might as well enjoy it, because when you go back to the Institute, there'll be no leaves and there'll be nothing but hard work." So we did. January 42, we went back to the Institute and remained there through the whole series of tests and the whole project. In the meantime, Tesla was given a ship for his full-size tests with crew. And that happened to be a battleship, unknown. But in wartime, apparently, politics has a bit of pull, and the politics coming from the President of the United States, he could probably order the Secretary of the Navy to supply any kind of ship that Tesla wanted. So he got a battleship. The equipment was designed, of course, by Tesla with a lot of work and cooperation, and you might say also a lot of fighting between Tesla and Von Neumann. Tesla was director, Von Neumann was, I guess, assistant. They didn't agree on everything. Von Neumann had a great deal of respect for Tesla's ability, but they didn't agree about everything. Tesla was insisting, as the date approached for the tests on the battleship with personnel, that they were going to have a very severe problem with personnel. He said flatly, he says, "You cannot employ the large amounts of power required to make a ship of this size invisible without having a very disastrous effect on the heads of the people, or the minds, or the bodies of the personnel involved, because you're talking megawatts of RF power, enormous amounts of power, and the coils, which in the early phases were like degaussing coils, were wrapped around the hull of the ship, but the later design was a set of 4 coils mounted on the deck of the ship, specially designed Tesla conical-shaped designs. And just interestingly enough, every transformer design ever built by Nikola Tesla was in conical. It was not round core. It was conically shaped, tapering towards a point at the top. Well, he knew he had a problem. And Tesla, he went to the Navy, asked for more time. They wouldn't give him more time. And he says, "You have a deadline." And he had already been advised, and here we have to backtrack a little bit into the history of Tesla. By his own statements to the press in 1900 in Colorado Springs, he said he was in contact with intelligences from off the planet Earth, very coolly received by his scientific colleagues. He made the same announcement to the press in 1923, at the time of the Mars approach, the close approach in 23, and he made another announcement after that. And according to 2 people I know personally who worked with Tesla in the period in the late 30s and the early 40s, he had a great deal of RF equipment in his New York labs. He had 2 of them, actually. His residence at the Hotel New Yorker and the receiving station there. And he also had lab offices and a lab operation in the top towers and the top floor of the Waldorf Astoria, and his transmitters were located there. At least one of these 2 people said he was in contact with somebody off-planet nearly every day. He says, I didn't understand the equipment. He says, I know he was. The inference here, and the data I have, is that he was in contact with the outside, and he was getting information which said, you've got a very serious problem. You've got to solve it or you're going to lose people. They'll be dead. And so he went, based on this, to the Navy. The Navy would not give him additional time. He says, I know how to solve the problem, but he says, I need more time to design new equipment. The Navy says, there's a war on. You can just make it work. Don't change anything. Make it work. You got a deadline. So he took the only way out he knew. And that was to sabotage the project for the test which came up in March 42. So he just detuned the equipment so when the switches were thrown, nothing worked. I mean, the transmitters were lit, the tubes came alive, and power was consumed, but nothing worked. No field effects, no invisibility. So he says, well, gentlemen, I guess I goofed. It's time to leave. You have a very good man here who can take over the project. Dr. Ben Neumann, I'm leaving. Bye. It's debatable whether he left or was fired, or whether they said, you were fired, and he said, you can't fire me, I quit. In any case, he left. And that was the end of Tesla insofar as that project was concerned.
What year was that?
That was 1942, March. Van Neumann took over and he looked at everything. He said to the Navy, he says, I've got to make a study of this. It obviously failed. He says, I don't know what's wrong, but I'll find out. He says, I need time. The Navy couldn't say anything. He said, give him the time. So he went ahead. We were working with him at that time. We were back and forth between the Philadelphia Navy Yard office and, of course, the Institute. I don't know where we spend more time, probably at the Institute. So Van Neumann made his own study of it and decided to change things around, and they still had the two generators that he proposed to use. In the meantime, he didn't have the battleship. There was a ship of the line that went back in service. It did not have a special crew. It had the regular crew. And they finally decided, he, of course, talking through us to the Navy brass, we needed a special ship that would be outfitted from the ground up. So it was decided to pick one that was going to come down the ways, and they decided on DD-173, which later was named the Eldridge. And about July, they were 42, they were laying the keel, and it was designed, the design was modified so they could put in two huge generators. And the reason why they had to design the equipment to the ship is the fact that a destroyer escort is not a very large ship. It's about 1,500 tons, roughly equipped. The later figure said 1,900. Dry weight was agreements between both the Greek records and the American records of 1,240 tons dry. It's a rather small destroyer. It only had two gun turrets. So to fit two huge generators and the motor drive system and all the RF equipment and the four transmitters on this thing, it took a lot of design effort, actually, from the beginning to know where you're going to fit the stuff. You don't throw it on this ship in midstream after it's built. So October came down the ways, and they wanted to dry dock, put equipment on board, and before they did this, they decided they needed a special test crew. Selected about 33 people, all volunteers, trained them up at Groveland, Connecticut, from about September to December of 42, and they graduated, and the picture still exists of the graduation class. And who was the head of the class but our father? This picture there with the naval uniform and the cap and scrambled eggs and the whole bit. Still don't know how he got involved in this, but he could have transferred between the Navy and the Coast Guard because there is a letter of citation still on the records, which Duncan has had, I believe, I don't know if I think he still has it, I've seen it, a letter of citation from the Coast Guard for assistance during the wartime period, meritorious assistance for during the war for the Coast Guard, et cetera, et cetera. And this was the Coast Guard Academy at Groveland where this crew was trained. So they came back to Philadelphia. And the work continued. The equipment was outfitted. And they started after the ship was not seaworthy, but actually out of dry dock, sitting at the dockside in the Philadelphia Naval Yard. A long series of tests began, a lot of modification equipment. Along about March of 42, Van Neumann started to shake a little and became concerned that maybe there's a personnel problem. And he started to agree with it because Duncan and myself were counting on him, saying, there's going to be a personal problem. You can't turn the switch on. You're going to possibly kill people. Tesla said so. Well, to mention the Tesla's name, he got very upset. He would fly into a rage, eventually got over it. But he agreed, yeah, maybe there is a problem. What do we do about it? He decided to put in a third generator and modify the system, and at that point he still had time to do it. So we ordered and had installed a third generator along about May of '43, and it never worked right. It wouldn't sync with the other two. The other two generators, I might add, were driven off a single motor and a gearbox, right-angle gearbox drive with special electronics to synchronize the generators, because with a motor of about 750 horsepower and a gigantic gearbox is required, those gearboxes were sloppy. You could not mechanically synchronize the generators. They had to be an absolute electrical sync, so that was accomplished by other synchronizing means with the special cabinets.